Many fans here in the chat.
Hello and welcome back to Andalucia Open Round 1 back 9 coverage from the FPO division. I hope you all watched the front 9, and if you haven't, you should do that as quickly as possible. My name is Elias Luukkonen. I will be taking you through this back 9, just like I did the front. We're playing in beautiful Chipiona, Spain. A small Spanish city with a very beautiful disc golf course. As we're taking a look at the scores, small field in this event, everybody on the card making up the entirety of the field in FPO. On the MPO side there was some more competitors, but now we're focusing on the FPO. Hole 10, par 4, 171 meters, a true dogleg. It's kind of like a corner shaped hole. You have about 100 meters to the corner, and from there you have this 90-degree turn to the right. A lot of OB to contend with, both the path on the left side in the first part of the fairway, and then after turning to the right you have those fences on the right lining the edge of the OB, and also another path on the left. So just stay on the grass and you will be just fine. And that's not what Jenni is doing. She has gone OB all the way to the road. And she did go OB kind of late, so in theory there's still a chance for her to get up and down for the par. That would be an incredible shot. Yeah, that looks like Aida is doing a similar thing. She has also found the left side OB. As I mentioned on the front 9, it's a pretty windy day and super important to keep these shots low in the wind, as Silva might have actually gotten one of the luckiest breaks you could even get on this hole. She was fully fading to the OB on the left side, but catches a tree and she's gonna be safe there. As we saw Birgit throw a good shot. And Silva, I'm not sure whether she was actually safe or not. We'll have to check the final score. So that was either her second or third shot. And all of these players are just trying to get around the corner. Hopefully make their way to the basket on the second, or excuse me, on the next shot. Though Jenni from here, she does have that straight look. That's really what you want here after your drive, and she's gonna have a look for the par. That's the best case scenario from that drive. Still having a look for the par. And Aida, being the local, we talked about this a lot on the front 9. You know, she must have had some nerves at the beginning of the round. Kind of calmed down. She had a really tough 3-hole stretch in holes 2, 3 and 4, but after that she hasn't been doing too bad. It's been nice to see. And Silva here just trying to get under the basket. A little bit overthrown there. She's gonna have a short comebacker left now, I believe, either for the par or for the bogey. As Birgit takes that forehand approach, and Jenni not able to sink it in for the par. We're gonna have a lot of red on our scorecard on this hole. And even though this green is one of the less windy greens on the course, as Silva makes a good putt, even on this one, in today's wind, there was some difficulty with the air moving around. As I said on the front, you can really never see it on camera, as Birgit has missed it from around 5 or 6 meters. Pretty tough miss, and despite the good drive, she's still gonna be taking that bogey 5. And Jenni also with the bogey. Silva actually looks like she was inbounds off the tee, taking that par 4. So she's gonna be taking a stroke on the card, and even two strokes on Aida. And it's another par 4 here, hole 11, 178 meters. Well, this hole you have a lot to think about. You have these, you know, not too wide, but really high trees that you have to get around, somehow around or through or in between. Hopefully get as much distance off the tee as possible while staying on the grass. Off the tee you still have that OB on the left, and then approaching to this green, OB is really difficult to describe. You have OB on the right, very close to the basket. You have OB behind the basket, OB to the left in the form of the water. So it's really quite a tight strip of land where you have to place your disc on that approach. So the drive is the easier part of this hole, and Silva also makes it look pretty easy. So that's well done there. And Jenni probably trying to do something similar. And she does. Looks like she's gonna be behind one of those trees, unfortunately. It's not really something you can control off this tee. I mean, of course you can always go shorter and avoid all the trees altogether. But it's just so common that somebody throws a good drive here and ends up behind one of those trees. You know, kind of like Birgit there. She did throw a good drive, and then after that you just have to hope that you don't end up behind one of them. So everybody inbounds here, Aida pushing that right side OB. And from here you have a choice whether you want to go over the water on your second shot or not. And as you can see, Birgit deciding to go short. I feel like that's a pretty smart choice. The green is really tight. Same thing here for Aida. Just trying to make that approach a bit easier. And Jenni also being directly behind that tree. She really doesn't have much of a choice. I think Silva is going to be the only person who does have a chance to go for the basket. And she's doing it. I don't really love the backhand hyzer of this shot though, as she's fading towards the water. But pretty lucky break there actually. Staying inbounds just next to that bridge. That's also a pretty nice approach there from Birgit. If it is a little bit, or well, I know it is a little bit confusing with the OB next to the green. That's gonna be OB to the water. I feel like the water is the only really clear OB on the right side of the basket from this angle. It's, you know, there are those stairs that you have to stay low off. But then the OB line is kind of, you know, falling downhill a little bit. And talking about falling downhill, luckily Jenni not falling all the way to the water. She's still gonna have a look for, I believe, the par from well in the circle. And this is a very scary putt from Birgit. Still running it and hitting both the top and the cage. Luckily not rolling down. And you can see on this hole there's an interesting obstacle. There's possibly the closest tree to a basket that I have ever seen on the course. It is about 20 centimeters off the basket. And while Jenni did not have it in her way, if you're at all above the basket, you can see that small little pine tree there. Or not a pine tree, actually palm tree. Is quite often directly in your way. So a very interesting choice from the course designer. I feel like that was something that really split the opinions of players. Some people didn't really mind it at all, and some people absolutely hated it. As we're moving on to hole number 12, 144 meters, a par 3, really difficult par 3. You know, this is really playing closer to a par 4, especially today, as our players are going to be facing a pretty strong headwind. And once again, the water is OB. The path on the right side is also OB, and everything on the right side of that path is OB. So really what you need to do here is just stay on the grass, get on the other side of the river, and then actually, sorry, a little mistake on my part. This hole was a little bit different for the MPO division. Wasn't aware of that. But you have this Mando tree on the left side, so every player will have to go for the left side of the river off the tee. And then only on the second shot they have the opportunity to get over the river and hopefully to the basket. So this hole playing very much like a par 4. You know, you're not gonna see anybody going for some sort of a huge turnover to the basket. That's just not really possible. And rather everybody just going for that layup play. Hopefully hit the wall, and then from here it's still not a short distance to the basket. You know, you do have that kind of, 80, 85, even 90 meters left, depending on where your first shot will land. And this is really when the wind will come into play. These players are facing a headwind from where they're throwing at. And you can see Birgit there landing a little bit short. Just kind of difficult to reach the basket in this wind from here. Though Aida doing a pretty well, or a pretty good job at that, excuse me. She's gonna be right next to those stools that you have on the course. Actually a pretty unique element. I might have never seen those sort of stools. They're made out of stone, very stiff, kind of uncomfortable to sit on actually. But they do look kind of cool. I like it. And that's gonna be a 4 for Birgit. Considered a bogey, with the par being 3 on this one. But really playing as a par 4. Might as well just call it a par 4, because this hole is not a par 3. And it looks like we're gonna have a lot of 4s here. Expecting Birgit to make this. That would be a 4 as well. And unfortunately not the case. She has had a couple of those short misses, really eating up her score. And it looks like there was a little bit of confusion with the par on this one, as it looks like Silva's 3 is marked as a birdie. So apparently I believe the par at the end was defined as a 4. A very good choice, I believe. This hole is definitely more of a par 4 than a par 3. And just like that, Silva is gonna get back to even par, which is very impressive considering the windy conditions. And the course is not incredibly difficult. In the COM this would be one of the easier courses we play, but in this wind definitely not easy. And hole 13, continuing the theme on this course of having that water on one side and a path on the other, both lining the OB. You just really have to stay straight on this one. And on the approach, you even, besides the water on the right and the path on the left, you even have that path or road behind the basket. So you need a lot of precision here. And also the hole is not that short, 185 meters, especially playing into a headwind. You know, it's difficult to even reach that distance with 2 shots into the headwind that was here today. Silva had a decent shot and Jenni with a very good one. Just in the middle of the fairway. On this one you have that Mando about 125 meters off the tee. So players are not really concerned about missing the Mando on the first. As unfortunately Aida has turned it over to the water. So easy to do with this wind. But yeah, how that Mando really affects the hole is that you need to land your disc in a good position relative to the Mando. And that's of course not the case for Birgit, as she's gone OB. But from here, she kinda has to think about the Mando. She can't go right too far because she would miss the Mando. So I believe the best play would be to just try to throw it next to the Mando. And she's safe there. So everything good on that. You can see that arrow on the right side being the mandatory. As Aida has gone OB second time already on this hole. And at the same time Silva only throwing the second shot. And she's already kind of between putting and throwing distance, only about 25 meters. I wouldn't be surprised if she was still throwing from there, as you have that late ceiling with the last bunker tree in front of the basket. It's actually one of the better obstacles I have seen on a disc golf course ever, as that last tree is absolutely huge and it has that low ceiling, you know, really thick leaves. You can see Jenni catching some of those leaves. As Aida had an interesting position just behind that bush, having to scramble a little bit, and she's looking like she's gonna take a big number here on hole 13. Nice approach there from Birgit, able to avoid that low ceiling at the end. Really from here you have the choice of either going wide to the right, or you can go completely below the ceiling. Aida there not quite deciding which one she wants to pick, so just going straight to the leaves. And Silva also. That's not the smartest of plays. I would have really loved to seen her going for a full throw there, and even Jenni, what's happening here? They're all kind of confused by their own play. As Aida has put it under the basket. And now Silva and Jenni need to save some face by making these putts, and that's not the case for Silva. She's gonna be taking a bogey despite a good drive, or decent drive, and a good second shot. And Jenni from even a better drive. Very important for the confidence, and that's well done. Good par there. Good putt from Birgit as well. And it's going to be a lot of positive numbers as far as compared to par on this one. Aida unfortunately taking a triple bogey 7. And it's not going to get much easier on hole 14, honestly. While it's a par 3, a shorter hole than the last one, you still have so much difficulty here. The strong headwind, very present on this one. have that path on the left. It is considered OB, and everything left of that is considered OB. And also, in the right side bushes of the fairway, there is also an OB line. So really there's anything you can think of on this one. At least it's not the water here, but you even have some early trees, so you have to either hit a gap or go completely over. Jenni, of course, choosing the latter. It looks like she's gonna be actually OB left. Tough result there. That looked like, you know, out of the hand it looked pretty good, but I guess the disc was just too overstable. And Silva hitting early. She's right up to that tree. It's gonna be a really difficult par from there. It's looking like two very likely bogeys. And Birgit, maybe with her forehand, I think she has a better chance to get up and down from there than Silva. And whoa, this is going way right. That is all the way to the buildings on the right side. I believe it's a private property on the right. You might not even get your disc back. So that's a... Silva, what is happening here? She's hit the first tree and pretty lucky to stay in bounds. And this one is a little bit high too, challenging that right side OB. She did probably stay safe there though. And Silva, if she can get up and down from here, she's gonna get away with one. It's not an easy job there, but with a slightly worse luck, she could have very well been throwing her fourth shot there and not the third. And that was Aida from the right side OB. This is Jenni from the left side OB. Well done there. She's gonna have only a single bogey. Still an outside the circle look for Aida. This is Birgit for the par. Good looking run, not quite. And once again here you can't really see the wind, but on this one, at least from time to time, it was a strong headwind. It definitely looks like the wind is down a little bit for these guys, momentarily at least. Nice bogey putt there. This is Jenni for bogey as well. Both of the Finns are +2 for the round now, so the back nine looking a little bit more difficult than the front. And I believe that that is the case here. You know, the back nine with all the long open holes and more wind, I believe that is the more difficult nine out of the two. And talking about the wind, we're going to face the 4 windiest holes on the course. Also some of the windiest holes of the season. I can't remember a course that has more wind on the final 4 holes than this one, as hole 15 here, 99 meters, so not too far, but once again that path on the left is OB. You have an OB line along the bushes on the right side, OB behind the basket. Fairway is just not very wide. Once again, you have a headwind here, and so important to just keep your shot low. This is looking a little bit higher than Jenni would like. Unfortunately, has gone OB. Just showing how important that height control is. Especially with the fairway being as tiny as it is on this one. You just have to keep your shot low. Silva here. That's a good shot. Well done. Hanging around, or excuse me, hanging over the right side bushes. Going with something pretty stable. And now you can see the wind, so you know it's gonna be strong. Birgit getting a nice flip up. Has to avoid the OB on the left, and just barely does. Well done. Good par chance there still. It's really not a hole that's, you know, it's not a hole that's birdied very often in this headwind. Though Aida looks like she has a great line, and look at that! on the edge of the bullseye. Incredible shot there. That would be the ultimate bounce back after having 2 triple bogeys in a row. As Birgit is gonna be just up there for the par, and Jenni gonna have back-to-back bogeys, unfortunately. But now we have 2 birdie chances. First Silva from 11 meters. Pretty good run, but you can just see that wind making the disc wobble much more than it normally would. The nice thing about this tournament was, as you can see from the clothing of these players, it was still relatively warm. Of course, as we are in Spain, that is kind of to be expected. But as the tournament was, you know, it was played pretty late in the fall. In our home country, Finland, it was probably, you know, almost negative degrees at that point. Moving on to another very similar hole to the last one, hole 16. This time playing a very similar shape than the last hole, but just slightly downhill. So 110 meters, pretty similar distance as well. This one being even a little bit tighter at the end. You have that OB gravel on the left, you have that OB wall on the right, the white low wall that you can very well fade over to the right. Also you have that path on the backside that's considered OB. So once again here, keep your shot low. And did you just see where that disc went? Aida went between the 2 posts in the wall, and she has ended up OB. And Silva also ended up OB on the right side of the wall. That's a pretty easy miss to do on this one. This is the play I like the most. Birgit going for the forehand, fading away from the left side OB and fading towards the wall. Very safe shot there, keeping it super low. And Jenni here. Good looking angle. Well done, she's on the fairway. It's another one of these holes that if you're just on the grass, you're gonna be happy. A good shot there from Aida. And this is Birgit to get up and down for the par. Just slightly short, but a good chance there to get a stroke. And Silva here. Good approach there. Good angle control. Not hyzering out to the left. And Jenni also looks like a pretty easy par from there. It is actually so deceiving, because on the video, even though I was there on that very same day, and I know it was very windy, from some of these angles, oh no, that's a tough miss there from Aida. But as I was saying, from some of these angles you really can't even tell that it was very windy. Even from this angle you can see the palm trees on the backside moving, but the small bushes next to the basket, you know, being kind of stiff, they're not really moving that much. Yeah, we're really separating between the 2 Finns and the 2 other players on the court as we're moving on to hole number 17. Another hole where the wind plays just a huge role. 222 meters. We're teeing off from a bit of an elevated deck, or you could call it a terrace even. A really vacation style tee pad. But once again on this one you have the same old theme as on almost every other hole. You have the path on the right lining the OB, And you have that OB line that's actually marked by the flags on the left side. And it's a pretty wide fairway, you have a lot of space to glide the disc down there. And this is the hole where you can see some pretty big drives. Birgit there not really playing a lot of glide on the disc, but she's well in the middle. And Jenni here going a little bit lower, even a little bit safer, but more power. So she's a little bit further down the fairway. On this one, there was a pretty strong right to left wind. So important to keep your shot low, hopefully throw something overstable, and don't let the wind get on top of the flight plate, as that's almost exactly what happened to Silva there. She's gonna be on that right side with you know, not going OB, so everything is okay on that. And Aida as well in the middle. Everybody with decent drives here. As we have Jakub Semerad on the bag. Still gonna be playing later today. Good commitment there. And really from here, it's just about chipping down that distance. Trying to get as far down there as possible on your second shot. And then hopefully on the third have an easy enough approach to put yourself in the circle. Still really important here to play that right to left wind. So you have to know when to expose the flight plate and when to expose the bottom of the disc. Of course, on your approach you would like to end up on tailwind side of the basket to leave yourself with an easier putt. So ideally all of these players would love to be on the right side of the basket. And what a nice looking approach there. Perfectly done from Birgit. She's gonna have a tap in no stress putt there. Really important at the late part of the round. As whoa! Almost had a heart attack there. Aida almost throwing it in from, I believe, around 75 or 80 meters out. That was incredible couple of shots we saw there, and even Silva being a little bit confused and throwing a weaker approach than normal. And Jenni there showcasing the wind to us. This is a really difficult putt. You can see the palm leaves just flying around. Still a very good bit there. Scary to even run it from that distance. And this is a left to right wind, and whoa, you can just see that wind pushing the disc down. Slight hyzer angle, possibly a slight nose down out of the hand. Not a lot of spin, and that's exactly what happens. As we saw a couple of birdies on the card. That hole was considered par 5. Well done there. And hole 18 here. 211 meters. Tough hole, although this one doesn't really require as much accuracy as some of the other holes. Really off the tee you have that palm tree that is working as a mando. You have to go right of that. So we're expecting some huge hyzers. And when I say huge hyzers, they're gonna be even bigger than normal with that slight, or actually very strong, crosswind from right to left. It's kind of a headwind from right to left. So if you put a lot of hyzer and height on this shot, you can get so far to the left. Not a lot of height there from Birgit, playing it pretty safe. I really want to see one of these players going for that huge high hyzer. That's closer to it. Look at that lift. Just getting so much lift out of the wind. Well done there. Let's see if Jenni and Silva can go for something even bigger than that. Not really there. Jenni going a little bit lower. It's of course not a bad play, but I believe on this one you want to get as far left as possible to open up the angle for the approach and also just get as much distance as possible. So where Silva is going, that's really not a problem, but you're gonna have to throw much closer to the right side palm trees, and risking those right side palm trees obviously is risking that right side path as well. So it's really all about just minimizing the risks on this one and getting as much distance at the same time as possible. As we saw from Birgit, she's gonna be inbounds and hopefully still looking for a 4. As Aida has faded out to the left from the angle she was throwing from. Still no problem, it's all safe on that left side. In that way this hole is much less treacherous than some of the other holes on the course. You have so much room both on the right and especially on the left. You know, on that right side you still can make the miss of going to the path, even though we quite rarely see it. I feel like all of our players are rather going to the left than to the right. And whoa, just look at the wind pushing that disc, landing almost 10 meters short, and even with that mid-range speed, getting a pretty big skip. As it looks like the birds are not really liking the disc golf players. Completely understand that. Probably wouldn't like them if I was a bird. And Silva for the last highlight of the round. It's not gonna be it. She's still gonna be at least tied for the top. And tough miss there from Aida. You know, tough round overall, but I feel like missing that putt on the last hole just stings so much more than any other mistake during the round. As Birgit got a par, Jenni also got a par, Silva with the par, and Aida with a lone bogey. So not her strongest effort, but I feel like both from seeing this coverage and also seeing her live, she kept her composure well out there. You know, I gotta give huge respect for that. And that was a very fun round to watch, I feel. We had some good shots and also some struggling. Of course, it never feels good to see players struggle, but I feel like it does give some perspective to our viewers when you see even the professional players struggle on the course. We're gonna have Silva and Jenni tied going into round 2. I very much hope to see all of you there. Thank you for watching. Hopefully, I will see you soon.